There's a special kind of pain that only a man knows. When the woman he loves starts losing respect for him. You feel it before you even admit it. The tone of her voice changes. Her patience fades. Her warmth turns cold. Suddenly, everything you say sounds like noise to her. And you sit there wondering, what did I do wrong? I gave her love, attention, time. Why is it never enough? Here's the truth. Love can't survive where respect has died. You can't force her to respect you. But you can handle yourself in a way that makes disrespect impossible to sustain. So in this video, we're going to break down 7 powerful ways to handle a woman who doesn't respect you. Not by arguing, not by begging, but by becoming the kind of man she can't play with. Stay with me till the end, because point number 7 will completely change the way you deal with women forever. Before we dive in, do me one favor. Like this video, subscribe, and help this message reach more men who are tired of losing themselves trying to please someone who no longer sees their value. Let's get into it. 1. Learn how to say no. Without explaining yourself. Here's where most men start losing respect. They can't say no. They think being nice keeps the peace, but in reality, it kills attraction. A man who can't say no ends up living for approval. He says yes to everything, even things that drain him. He changes his schedule, sacrifices his priorities, and calls it love. But she doesn't see love, she sees weakness. Because here's a hard truth. The moment she realizes her needs will always come before your peace, she stops respecting you. When you say no calmly, without anger or long explanations, you send a silent message. My life doesn't revolve around pleasing you. That's not arrogance. That's masculine balance. You see, women test boundaries not to destroy them, but to feel the security of knowing you have them. And when you stand firm, when you say, no, not today, or that doesn't work for me, she may not like it at first, but she'll respect it. Because your no tells her that your yes actually means something. But here's where most men fail. They think being respected comes from being liked. It doesn't. Respect comes from having vision, and that's why the next point matters even more. 2. Have vision and purpose. Let me tell you something no one teaches young men. A woman doesn't fall in love with your face, your money, or your words. She falls for the direction your life is moving in. A man without a vision will always end up chasing validation, and a woman can sense it. She can smell uncertainty. When you wake up every day without purpose, she feels the lack of direction and starts to lead, to control, to test. She doesn't even do it out of evil. She does it out of instinct, because feminine energy follows masculine direction. When you have no plan, she feels unsafe. But when you live with purpose, when your actions show that you're building something beyond her, she starts looking at you differently. She realizes she can't play with your time, because your time has meaning. Your purpose doesn't have to be world-changing, but it must be clear. Work on your goals. Build your mission. Wake up every day chasing something that matters more than her approval. Because when you have direction, you become magnetic. And that quiet focus makes her respect you more than 1,000 compliments ever could. But vision means nothing without boundaries. That's why the next point isn't just a rule. It's the foundation of all masculine respect. 3. Establish boundaries and consequences. Here's a fact most men ignore. You don't lose a woman by having boundaries. You lose the wrong ones. Disrespect grows in silence. The first time she mocks you, talks down to you, or crosses a line, and you stay quiet. You You've just given her permission to do it again. But when you calmly set a standard, without shouting, without emotional explosions, that's when she feels your power. You simply say, "That's not how I allow people to talk to me." No drama, no lecture, just truth. Boundaries aren't control, they're clarity. They show her where the line is. And when she crosses it, you don't argue, you distance yourself. Because men who keep talking about boundaries rarely have them. Real boundaries are shown through behavior, not speeches. And when she sees that her disrespect earns her silence instead of attention, she'll either adjust or expose who she really is. And that's where most men get stuck. They confuse disrespect with a rough phase. But sometimes the truth is much harder to accept. And that's what we'll talk about next. 4. Recognize when she's not the one. Here's the truth no man wants to face. Sometimes disrespect isn't a problem to fix. It's a sign to leave. You can't teach respect to someone who doesn't value you. You can't argue your way into being appreciated. If she constantly belittles you, makes you question your worth, and turns every disagreement into humiliation, she's showing you her true character. But most men stay because they're addicted to potential. They keep saying, "She wasn't always like this," or "She'll change when things get better." No, brother. What you're seeing is who she is when she feels no consequences. A woman who truly values you will disagree with you respectfully. She won't tear you down to prove she's right. She won't use your emotions as a weapon. So stop trying to fix her and start saving yourself. Because every minute you spend trying to prove your worth to the wrong woman is a minute stolen from the man you could have become. And that's why the next point, coming after this, will shift everything you know about masculine peace. 5. Master emotional control. Let me tell you something, brother. The moment you lose control of your emotions, you lose control of the situation. And that's exactly what disrespect feeds on. See, when she disrespects you, she's not just testing your patience, she's testing your frame. She wants to know, can this man stay centered when I push his buttons? Because the truth is, women don't just test your strength, they test your stability. When you shout, overreact, or get emotional every time she crosses a line, you're showing her that she owns your peace. But when you stay calm, when your silence speaks louder than her chaos, that's when she feels your true power. Masculine energy is peace under pressure. It's the ability to look someone in the eye, even when they're trying to break you, and say without words, "You can't shake me." Don't confuse calmness with weakness. It's one of the strongest forms of self-respect, because your peace is sacred. Once you give it away, you become her puppet. So the next time she tries to provoke you, pause. Don't react. Respond with silence. Because nothing is more confusing to a disrespectful person than a man who refuses to play their emotional game. But here's where most men mess up. They think silence means doing nothing. It doesn't. Because silence is just the beginning. What you do after that silence determines everything. And that's why the next point is the ultimate power move. 6. Level up and make her feel the loss. Here's what separates weak men from strong men. The weak ones argue, the strong ones evolve. When a woman disrespects you, don't waste your time trying to explain your worth. Demonstrate it. Not through words, not through revenge, but through silence and transformation. Disrespect feeds on your attention. Take it away, and the game ends. So instead of chasing her, chase improvement. Hit the gym. Stack your money. Grow your network. Build your vision. Sharpen your presence. Let her see that losing you wasn't just losing a man. It was losing the experience of your evolution. There's nothing more painful to a woman than watching a man she took for granted become everything she prayed for. And nothing more satisfying to a man than knowing he didn't lose her. She lost access to the man he became. That's not ego. That's evolution. You're not proving anything to her. You're reminding yourself who you were before you started begging for respect. And when she sees that she can no longer affect you, that's when the dynamic flips. Because the same silence she used to think was weakness becomes the peace she now envies. But all of that means nothing if you can't do the hardest thing of all, to walk away and rebuild alone. And that, brother, is where the real freedom begins. 7. Walk away and rebuild alone. There's a reason this is the last point. It's the most powerful one. Because no man truly regains his strength until he's willing to walk away from disrespect, even when he still loves her. Most men stay because they confuse attachment with love. They think leaving means losing. But sometimes, walking away isn't loss. It's liberation. When you walk away, you're not saying, "I don't care." You're saying, "I care about my peace more than your chaos." And that's a man's real power, the ability to detach. See, when you walk away and focus on yourself, something incredible happens. You rediscover the version of you that didn't need anyone's validation to feel valuable. You rebuild your confidence, your energy, your discipline. You start to enjoy silence again, because you realize that peace is louder than attention. And when you finally rebuild, you stop chasing love and start attracting respect, effortlessly. Because you've become the kind of man who doesn't need to prove his worth. His presence already does. So let her wonder where you went. Let her see the version of you she disrespected walking into a new chapter, one that doesn't include her. Because sometimes the best revenge is not showing her she was wrong. It's showing her she's no longer relevant. And when you reach that level, brother, that's when you win. Not against her, but against the version of you that tolerated less than you deserved. At the end of the day, handling disrespect isn't about punishing her. It's about protecting yourself. It's about learning when to speak, when to stay silent, when to act, and when to walk away. Because a woman can only respect a man who respects himself. And once you start carrying yourself like a man of peace, purpose, and power, she'll either rise to meet your standards, or she'll remove herself completely. Either way, you win. So remember, don't chase respect. Embodies it. Move in silence, act with clarity, and live in a way that makes people realize they lost access to something rare. If this message hit home, brother, like this video, subscribe, and share it with another man who needs to hear the truth.